The breaking news from yesterday was that the WNBA has told the WNBPA and its teams that a term sheet for a new CBA ought to be completed by March 10th for the 2026 schedule not to be impacted. So that is 2 weeks from today, you guys. And this is essentially the drop dead date that Adam Silver was referring to.
March 10th, 2 weeks. That's the drop dead date standing between the WNBA's most promising season in history and the first work stoppage this league has ever seen. And what happened in the 48 hours leading up to that announcement should tell you everything about how calculated this negotiation has become. Sunday, the WNBA quietly triggered its revenue-sharing model for the first time ever. $8 million distributed directly to players, roughly $50,000 each, a bonus nobody saw coming under the old CBA. Then, less than 24 hours later on Monday morning, the league dropped the March 10th ultimatum, get a term sheet done, or the 2026 season is in jeopardy. That sequencing was not an accident, it was a message. If you've been watching these negotiations and something about the league's timing felt too deliberate to ignore, you were right. Hit that like button so this breakdown reaches everyone who deserves to know what's actually happening behind the press releases. Here's why that chess move matters. The league essentially told players, look at what just landed in your accounts. That's what momentum creates. That's what growth delivers. Now ask yourself if you really want to blow all of that up over a deal structure we've already told you we can't accept. The timing is surgical. And understanding it fully requires breaking down the core dispute, because this isn't really about dollar amounts. It's about two fundamentally different business models that may be completely incompatible. The players want gross revenue sharing, a percentage of every dollar that comes through the door before the league covers a single expense. The WNBA is offering net revenue sharing. Players get paid only after operating costs are covered. That distinction sounds technical, but the financial gap it creates is enormous. On salary cap alone, the league is offering $5.6 million per team. The players are asking for over $9 million plus access to gross revenue. That's a $3.5 million gap per team. Multiply that across 15 teams in 2026, and you're looking at an additional $52 million annually in salary cap increases alone, before you even calculate the revenue percentage dispute layered on top. Both sides did swap proposals last week. The players came down a few percentage points on their gross revenue ask. They're hovering around 27% now. The league came back with housing provisions for all players, improved travel, and other quality-of-life concessions. But neither side has moved a single inch on the fundamental question, gross versus net. That's where this entire negotiation is frozen. Adam Silver telegraphed the league's position clearly at NBA All-Star Weekend. He told reporters the negotiation should stop being framed as a revenue-sharing debate and focus instead on maximizing salaries. That's league speak for gross revenue sharing is not on the table. Stop putting it in your proposals. The players heard that message, and their response has been equally blunt. Net revenue as the foundation is a non-starter. Full stop. Here's what makes that standoff genuinely dangerous. The revenue-sharing payment the league just delivered, as historic and real as it is, was generated under the old CBA. It proves growth is happening. It does not mean the league is operating in the black. Revenue-sharing triggers when specific benchmarks are hit, not when the league turns a profit after expenses.
Said that the league notified player leadership earlier this month that they hit the benchmark. The 13 teams will receive a total of $8 million from the league to disperse among players. And $8 million, if you do the math, that's about $50K per player, which is a pretty sweet bonus for these players. Now, this is the first time in WNBA history that they have triggered this revenue sharing model. And I think some people are overreacting to this news. I think overall, the way that we should react to this news is that this is very.
The league brought in enough money in 2025 to activate that payment structure. That's progress. But it's not the same as a financially self-sustaining league with the margin to restructure its entire revenue model. And here's what makes this even more compelling. Caitlin Clark missed significant time last season with an ankle injury. The Golden State Valkyries were a first-year expansion team still finding their identity. Despite those limitations, despite not having a full season from the league's biggest draw, they still hit the revenue benchmark. Now, project forward to 2026. A healthy Clark returns to a full season. Toronto and Portland enter the league with sold-out season ticket bases already in place. The financial trajectory is pointing one direction. The league knows it. The players know it. And both sides are using that trajectory as leverage. Many of you have been pointing this out in the comments for weeks, and it's the angle that's getting almost zero mainstream attention, even if both sides shake hands on a term sheet by March 10th. What comes after that is a logistical nightmare. Drop your prediction below right now. Does someone cave before March 10th? Or are we actually watching a work stoppage unfold in slow motion? I want to see where this community lands on this.
Surprised that it's this late, because if I'm going to be totally honest, I would have predicted that the season is already going to start late. Even if a CBA was agreed upon today, I was under the assumption that there was far too much to get done in that amount of time. Yes, we still have 2 months before the WNBA season is supposed to start, but you still have 3 drafts to do, 2 expansion team drafts, and then obviously the WNBA draft, and then you have over 100 players who are free agents. So it's a lot.
And Portland, plus the WNBA draft itself. Over 100 players are currently unsigned free agents. That's an enormous amount of roster construction that needs to happen in a compressed window before a season is supposed to begin. Even if a deal gets done on deadline day, the preparation time for 2026 is already damaged. Toronto and Portland have already sold out their season tickets. Their fan bases built real excitement around specific players, specific storylines, a specific identity for what their franchise would be. If the offseason gets compressed into weeks, those organizations may have to field rosters assembled under pressure without the preparation time the Golden State Valkyries used to exceed expectations in 2025. The Valkyries succeeded partially because they had time. Time to build real chemistry, time to execute a plan, time to give their fans something genuine to rally around before opening night. The new expansion franchises deserve that same runway. Right now, that runway is getting shorter by the day, regardless of what March 10th delivers. Mark Cuban recently weighed in with a structural argument worth sitting with. The league's ownership breakdown, 42% held by the WNBA itself, 40% by the NBA, 16% by outside investors, creates a situation where the revenue-sharing model the players want may be structurally impossible under the current setup. Cuban suggested the league might need to be fundamentally rebuilt, with a framework closer to college NIL, where players capture more value through direct sponsorships and endorsements rather than through a shared revenue pool. Whether that's realistic is another question entirely. But it raises the most uncomfortable truth hovering over all of this. Are both sides fighting over a model that's never going to deliver what either of them actually wants? Before we get to that answer, if this kind of analysis is what keeps you coming back, consider joining the channel as a member. Your support is what makes it possible to keep going deeper on the stories the mainstream coverage keeps missing. Here's where both sides are simultaneously right and stuck. The players are right that they're underpaid relative to the value they generate. A league that triggers revenue sharing for the first time in its history, during a year when its biggest star played limited games due to injury, is a league with real, demonstrated economic momentum. The players built that. They deserve to benefit from it, but the league is also right that paying out more than you can sustainably generate isn't a business model. It's a countdown. The WNBA has been financially subsidized by the NBA for its entire existence. The growth is real. The trajectory is genuinely exciting, but it doesn't yet operate with the margins that allow the NBA to hand players 50% of basketball-related income. The players are asking for a financial foundation that the league's current structure may not actually be able to support, no matter how strong the growth story looks from outside. Both sides have drawn lines they insist they won't cross, and both sides are betting the other will blink first under the weight of the March 10th deadline. There's one more dimension that's barely being discussed. Team USA is scheduled to play games against South American opponents as part of FIBA World Cup preparation right around that March 10th window. If players are locked out or on strike during those games, it adds international complications and external pressure to an already volatile situation. It could accelerate a resolution, or it could become another flashpoint in a negotiation that's already producing more heat than light. The next 2 weeks will define the entire future of women's professional basketball. A deal gets done, and the league enters 2026 with the most powerful roster of storylines it's ever had. A healthy Caitlin Clark, 2 brand-new expansion franchises, and a financial milestone already in the books. A work stoppage risks destroying every piece of that momentum in one move, and potentially damaging the league in ways that take years to recover from. Subscribe and hit the bell, because when this breaks, and something is going to break, you need to hear it the moment it drops. We're also tracking a separate development on the expansion front that connects directly to how the CBA outcome reshapes the league's financial picture for the next decade. That one is coming soon. Stay ready.